We have proposed the following equation where we're saying that we want our suitability to be the sum of our weight criteria multiplied by the product of our restrictions. In our equation, S is our suitability for waste disposal, WI is the weight for our criteria I, CI is our criteria for the suitability, and RJ is our restrictions. Now, let's focus on the restriction model. What we're going to do is we're going to expand our equation for only 3 restrictions. We're going to work on restrictions for rivers, streets, and parks. And what this means is we're going to have restrictions related to the locations of streets, rivers, and parks. And this is going to create for us a Boolean raster layer that will represent the restriction to develop a waste disposal site. Now, most restrictions include a minimum and maximum buffer zone. We did some research, and the literature suggests that for rivers, you use between 30 and 200 meters. For streets, between 100 and 300 meters, and for parks, between 300 and 3,000 meters. Now, regularly, you would probably do an analysis with minimum distance and maximum distance and see how viable these restriction zones are, and then choose your analysis buffer distance. We're not going to do this now because this is a tutorial, and we're going to choose our analysis buffer distance. We chose for rivers 200, for streets 300, and for parks 1,000 meters. Now, what we're going to produce in this tutorial is a restriction raster, which is a Boolean raster. A Boolean raster is pretty much a raster that contains just zeros and ones, where 0 represents a restricted cell to develop a waste disposal site, and 1 represents a cell viable to develop a waste disposal site. Now, first things we're going to do is we're going to buffer our feature classes based on the parameters we already had selected. We're going to look for proximity. We're going to drag and drop here, buffer, double click and buffer. We're going to select streets, and we're going to select on linear units 300 meters, on dissolve type all, because we want all our streets to be dissolved together, or our buffers to be dissolved together. We're going to do apply, do OK. I'm going to rename this to street buffer. Use a capital B so it'll look consistent. Now, we're going to drag and drop again the buffer. We're going to create a buffer for our rivers. We set our rivers, we're going to be 200 meters. We're going to choose as dissolve type all. I'm going to do apply. OK. Now we're going to do this. Now we're going to rename this to river buffer. We're going to drag and drop buffer again, and we're going to select now our parks. We have parks and reserves. For parks and reserves, we have 1,000 meters. I'm going to choose again, dissolve all. I'm going to do apply. I'm going to do OK. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to save our model, just in case something goes wrong. As you can see, as soon as I save my restriction model here, the name changes. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to rename here this. Probably let's call this park buffer. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to convert this to raster. We're going to use conversion tools to raster. We're going to use feature to raster. I'm going to drag and drop this here. I'm going to double click on feature to raster. And we're going to select this input our street buffer. Our field will be object ID, and our cell says we'll keep it as 90. Okay. Now let's do a little bit of zoom here so we can see what we're doing. Now let's rename this to street raster. Street buffer raster. We're going to use feature to raster again. Double click here. We're going to select rivers, river buffers. I'm going to rename this to river buffer raster. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little bit more zooming. We're going to zoom again. So now we have our feature, our buffers converted to raster. But the thing is, when you convert to raster, what it's doing is whatever is not part of the buffer will be converted into no data. So now we have to change that. And for that, we're going to use the isNull tool, which is in Spatial Analyst. Look here into Spatial Analyst. And isNull, I think it's in Mathological. isNull, yeah, it's here. So isNull is going to change whatever is null into ones, and whatever is not null into 0. So we're going to select our street buffer, apply. We're going to drag and drop isNull again, double click on it, and we're going to select our river restriction, apply, okay. And we're going to rename this to river restriction. Okay. Now, with our parks, it's a little bit different. We have to go a little bit beyond converting this feature to raster. And we're going to explain a little bit why. Look at the size of our parks and reserves. If we buffer it and then convert it to raster, the extent would be around this area that you see here. Probably I'm going to make a fast zoom around this area. So anything that's outside this area would be no data. So the first thing we have to do is we have to make a union between our study area, which is a polygon, and our parks. And this will give us a polygon feature that we will then convert into raster. So now let's go back to our... Now first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a union. Look at here. It's an overlay in analysis tools. We're going to double click on it, and we're going to add our park buffer, and we're going to add our study area. We want to join all attributes. We do apply. Okay, and we're going to rename this to park buffer with extent. Let's call it that. Park buffer with extent. Oops. Okay. Now this we can convert now to a raster. We're going to select again in conversion tools to raster, feature to raster. Click in here and double click on feature raster. We're going to select park buffer with extent, and as a field we're going to select FID of Áreas Protegidas del Valle BU 2. So we're going to select and do apply. And do OK. And we're going to run this. We're going to rename first. We're going to rename this to our this would be our park buffer. Raster. We'll do OK. Now we're going to run this so I can show you a little bit of the next step we're going to do so you can understand it. We're going to run this. Run. Close. We're going to add our park buffers to our display. We're going to set them up here. Close our model. We're going to zoom to layer. As you can see, what's done is whatever was parks with buffer is now 1, and the rest of the extent is -1. So now we have to change this -1 to 1 and our current ones to 0, which we're going to do using the con tool. We're going to open this. We're going to look for the con tool, which is in conditional special analyst. Drop it here. Now we're going to double click on con. I'm going to select as our source our park buffer raster. And click on an expression, select value equals, get uniques, -1. Click. Okay, now for our true raster, we're going to select here 1, and for our false, we want them to be set to 0. We're going to do apply, we're going to do OK, and we're going to do auto layout soon. Just to be sure, I'm gonna rename this to our restriction name. I'll call this our park restriction. Since this is a little bit more complex, I'm going to run this to check out it's doing okay. Close. We're going to add it to display, see if it's supposed to do correct. Now, as you can see, this area is 1s and the green is 0s, which is the restriction. So you're good to go now. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply all our restrictions, and for that we're going to use our map algebra raster calculator. We're going to drag and drop it here. We're going to multiply our street restriction